Grace and peace to you, beloved. Amy Wilson Feltz here. I am the pastor of St. Paul's United Methodist Church in El Paso, Texas. Thank you so much for joining me for coffee with Pastor Amy on this Wednesday morning. I have been thinking quite a bit lately about my daughter Olivia, who is 14 and a half months old. She is in a really interesting season of development right now. It seems like every day she has discovered a new word, a new way of exploring, a new way of moving in the world, and it's really fun to watch. One of her favorite new words is this. This. She says it dozens of times in a day, often with her hand outstretched as she reaches for something, and it sounds like a question. This? This? What is this? May I have this? She's exploring. She wants to know what's going on in her world. And it reminded me of our discussion about curiosity on Sunday when I mentioned that I really believe that curiosity is a spiritual practice. It's a spiritual discipline that we have often neglected as followers of Jesus, especially in the United States of America. We want certainty, we want security, we want to know exactly what things mean, and we want to feel safe in the midst of everything, and we're willing to trade some curiosity for that sense of certainty, even if it is an illusion. So I wondered if we could adopt more curiosity as Olivia is and wonder a little bit about how God is at work in the world and how we can participate in that work, because we do believe that God is present with us and that God has not abandoned us and that God is at work in the world. So what does that mean for us and for our work in the world? Those questions keep bringing to my mind a verse from the letter to the Romans. If you have not read Romans lately, I will encourage you again to read it. I encouraged you to read it in a past coffee talk as well. Romans is the Apostle Paul's most complete work of theology, of grace, and it is always a good idea to be reminded of the power of God's grace. If you don't have time to read the whole letter this week, I encourage you to read chapter 8. I'm going to read one verse from chapter 8 of Romans this morning. This is Romans chapter 8, verse 28. We know that all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to God's purpose. We know that all things work together for good for those who love God, who are called according to God's purpose. Now, this verse may be familiar to many of us. It's one that is often memorized by followers of Jesus. Perhaps it's in a frame in your house somewhere. Perhaps you've embroidered it. It's always a little bit tricky to pull out one verse of the Bible, and this one is one that's often taken out of context, and it can be used to say that we're not going to have any difficulty in this world and everything is just going to turn out fine. And of course, ultimately, we believe that everything is going to turn out fine because God is working to restore and reconcile all of humanity and all of creation. But that doesn't mean we're never going to have trouble. In fact, Jesus said that elsewhere in the Bible, in John chapter 16, in this world we will have trouble. And so how do we reconcile those two realities, those two truths, those two ideas? I really think curiosity has a role to play in that. Just as Olivia stretches out her hand in wonderment and she wants to explore what is before her, I believe if we're willing to adopt that kind of a posture as well, we will see how God is at work and we will see how we are invited to participate in that work. Much good is available to us, even in the midst of our difficult circumstances and our fear, our anxiety. Certainly, we're feeling many of those things right now as individuals, as a nation. It's Inauguration Day, Wednesday, January 20th, 2021. A transition of power is taking place today in our government, and Many people are excited about that, and many people have great fear about that, and many people are angry about that. And it's very easy when tensions and feelings and emotions and hopes and fears are running high for us to lean into those and to not really see the bigger picture. But for us as followers of Jesus, the bigger picture is that God is at work, working everything for good, for those of us who are invited to participate in that good work as well. So I encourage us this morning, beloved, to adopt that posture of curiosity, to ask, what is this? What does it mean for us? How can we participate in God's good work? And then get to work in the ways that Jesus has called us to live in love and in grace, working for the needs of our neighbors, working for peace and for justice, loving our enemies. These tasks are always before us, always before us. And if we are willing to engage in them, trusting that God is at work alongside us, we will see a difference in our families, in our communities, in our neighborhoods, in our cities, in our states, in our nation, and in our world. It's pretty exciting if we're willing to think about it in that way. So I hope that's been encouraging to you. I hope that you are working to cultivate a deep sense of curiosity in your world. I hope that you are leaving plenty of room for the Holy Spirit to work, trusting that God indeed works everything for the good of those who love God and have been called according to God's purpose. Have a great rest of the week, and I will see you back here next week for Coffee with Pastor Amy. Grace and peace.